This is the Canon R100, and it is the cheapest camera that Canon has ever made. But they did it at the cost of a ton of features that are really desirable for a lot of photographers and a lot of videographers. Now, full disclosure, I do have to say that when I say that I give this camera a lot of flack, and that's because of how much it actually costs. Yes, it is the cheapest camera that Canon makes, the most modern, cheapest camera that Canon makes. It retails for right under $450. I think it's $430 for the body only. But they cut so many corners that the camera, in my opinion, is not very desirable. Not because it's cheap and it doesn't have X, Y, and Z, but because I actually think that the camera is overpriced. Truthfully, I think that this camera needs to cost somewhere around $300 to $350. At that price point, I think I could live with a lot of the shortcuts and a lot of the corners that they cut out of this camera. But with all that being said, I decided to rig it out to see what kind of video we can pull out of this camera. Again, the camera has pretty decent photos and really decent video. And throughout this video, I am going to be sprinkling in some of the footage that I was able to capture it just around my studio. So that'll be marked on this video with a little asterisk mark, so you'll know exactly where the footage came from. But I'm sure that you'll be able to tell what camera took what footage. So breaking this all down, everything that is included in this little camera cage, this cinema rig that we made with the R100. Obviously, the first thing that we started with was the Canon R100 body only. Now, I do have to tell you that the Canon R100, actually, all cameras that come with a kit lens, all the kit lenses are not very good. They're paired with them just as like an entry level lens just to get you started. I personally recommend to people, actually I get tons of questions all the time, what camera should I buy? I always tell people to buy the body only and then do a little bit of research on what kind of lenses and what kind of photography is going to be best suited for you, because the kit lenses, in my opinion, are all a waste of money. So you purchase this camera body only for about $430, $450 USD, body only. The second thing that you're going to need is, of course, the SmallRig cage. Now, one thing about the R100 and SmallRig is that SmallRig did not make a labeled Canon R100 SmallRig cage. What this actually is the Canon R50 cage from SmallRig. And I do have to kind of mention a little bit about this camera cage, is that the R50 and the R100 share practically the exact same body, but when putting this on my R100, I did have to kind of wiggle it in and give it a little bit of extra encouragement for it to fit perfectly in on it. On the R50, it fits like a glove, but on the R100, there are some millimeter differences. Hey, kitty. There are some millimeter differences, very, very small differences that you'll have to really kind of wiggle on the cage, but it does work perfectly after you give it a little bit of encouragement just by muscling it in a little bit. It isn't much, it's just a tiny bit, and actually you'll see me struggle with it on the overhead video here. The second thing that I paired this lens with, of course, is the lens. I have a top-of-the-line Sigma art lens, the 17-40 f1.8. This lens costs twice as much as the R100. Now, why did I put such a good lens on here? Well, the camera needs as much help as it can get, and this art lens is absolutely beautiful. And truthfully, if you're watching some of this footage that I'm overlaying this video right now, you're gonna say to yourself, wow, that footage looks incredible. I gotta tell you, you will not be able to replicate this footage that you're seeing right now with the kit lens. It's just not possible. There's a reason why this lens costs about $950 to $1,000, twice as much as the body only of the R100. Now, this is a top of the line lens. It's an art lens from Sigma, but if you don't have $1,000 to spend, I do have a couple of other options, and that is the Sigma RF 18 to 50 millimeter and also the Sigma 10 to 18. Both of these are f2.8 constant apertures. These lenses right here are absolutely exceptional. They are very, very nice. Both of these lenses retail each for about $600 to $650 respectively. Very, very nice lenses. This lens right here, the Sigma art lens, this is a constant f1.8 within an internal zooming focal range. A premium lens. Very, very nice. And you'll be able to see on the footage exactly what I mean by that. Now, continuing on around the cage, I did have to get a dummy battery that plugged into USB-C because the Canon R100 does not support continuous charging via the USB-C, which is such a shame. But we'll go into that build here, that little detail in a little bit, because in fact, the R100, similar to the R50, the ports for the HDMI, the micro HDMI, and the USB-C are on the side of the handle. So if you do rig this camera out, you're gonna have to buy a NATO rail attachment, but not just any NATO rail, because some NATO rails sit very flush to the camera cage, and that's not gonna work because you need actual clearance from the port so that you're able to put the handle on here, because without it, you're not going to be able to hold the camera. So you're going to need everything that I'm listing here. By the way, everything that I'm mentioning here is down in the first link in the description, so that you have no trouble finding the exact things that I'm recommending. Another thing to keep in mind when you're plugging in the HDMI is that you want something that has a right angle coming in and not directly in, because if you have something coming in at straight in, the cable is going to run into your fingers and you're not going to be able to actually hold the camera with the handle or without the handle, again, because without this handle, you're not going to be able to hold it whatsoever. So that's another thing. Again, all of the exact parts are listed down below, first link in the description. Okay, so the HDMI cable is a right angle HDMI cable so that it doesn't stick fully out and protrudes outwards. So in order for you to fit that, you need the NATO rail that is elevated and doesn't sit flush with the cage, so that you can put a handle on here. This handle is a rotating handle that could be used on either side. I use this all the time. It has a NATO rail attachment on it, so you can easily put it on and take it off fairly quickly. Again, everything's linked down in the description below. This one is really nice because at low angles or high angles, I can, manipulate it and change the position of it very easily. So this is the one that I recommend for this, and actually for all camera bodies, because the NATO rail is really secure, and the rotating thing is very nice. Okay, moving on. The base of the camera is a SmallRig, another SmallRig part that is combined with this little base plate that has some extending legs on here. The extending legs down here at the bottom of this base plate isn't incredibly necessary, but I like to be able to use it so that I can set it down on a surface just like this, and it kind of protects it. In my opinion, this isn't the best execution of this product here because the legs don't lock, but I like using it again just to keep it on there. Another good thing about this is that it has a Arca Swiss base plate at the bottom, so not only can you use it to kind of put it onto something like this, but any tripod that has an Arca Swiss base plate, you can mount it right on top, and it's kind of easy to use, just like that. And it gets mounted onto a tripod very easily. So that is attached to the actual SmallRig V-mount battery pack that lets you connect a V-mount battery to the back. I have a smaller one just because The only thing that this battery is powering right now is the camera. This 50, number 50, I don't know what the 50 represents, the capacity, I think, because there's 50, 99, 149, 200, I think 199. I got the smaller one here because this is just powering the camera, and this will probably run for hours, all day of shooting with this. This battery specifically does have multiple ports, so you can connect the monitor to it if you wanted to. But I also am using some NPF batteries here for the monitor, but you could easily use a D-tap to power the monitor with this SmallRig battery. Going back to the USB-C port on the camera, it doesn't have charging support. So the only way that you can have constant power to this, if you want constant power using the V-mount battery, is to get a dummy battery that has a USB-C. It's my opinion, you do need to be careful, and I'd encourage you to do your own research on what batteries, what dummy batteries work best for you, and buy them at your own risk, because they don't really sell first-party Canon batteries that have a USB port on the other side. So just make sure that you're careful and that you don't buy something that's incredibly cheap. The one that I linked down below, I've used for a very long time on all of the cameras that I've used, so I do trust it. But again, be wary of that, because buying third-party battery accessories and power accessories for your expensive gear, you could run the risk of something going bad and like burning something up. So just be careful with that. Thank goodness I've never run into that issue, but I wish that Canon sold more battery accessories or continuous power accessories for their camera that were more readily available. I've looked for them, but I've never been able to find them. So that's the dummy battery that I have for this. You can buy one that has the cable that extends, and then you can also buy one that has the coil, the little telephone coil, so it keeps everything neat and tidy. Some other honorable mentions here that I have are the actual Rode mic. This is one of my favorite Rode mics that I've ever used. It's the VideoMic NTG. It's a little expensive, but it's definitely worth the money. I've linked 2 different mics down in the description below so that you can choose. There's much cheaper ones, but this is the one that I like and that I've used for a very long time. Rode is one of my favorite brands for audio, next to DJI. Moving on to the actual monitor. The monitor is held here by a little magic arm from SmallRig that I always, for all of my rigs, I've never really liked the actual handle, because that really makes the camera really, really tall. It adds a lot of verticality to the camera rig. So I've always preferred to use this little magic arm like this, because the magic arm lets me pivot the camera almost in any direction, whether I'm like shooting up high or shooting down low. I can put this down and manipulate the monitor in any way that I want. So that is something that I always do. Feel free to put a handle here if you don't mind having a tall rig. This has been really, really nice for me. I've always used something like this. And now going on to the monitor, I do typically recommend something inexpensive like a Viltrox monitor, this DC550. But for the purposes of this video, because I wanted to show you guys what this monitor is from Ninja. It's an Atomos Ninja. This has internal recording, so I can record the actual back of the screen of the camera so that I can navigate the menu and kind of pull it up here so you guys can see all of my settings as I'm showing you some demo footage. So moving on, the next thing that we're going to be doing, now that I've broken everything down for you, please, by the way, also let me know if you guys have any questions about anything that I am talking about here. Also, let me know your opinion. I do rag on the R100 a ton. I know it isn't because it's a poor man's camera or it's super cheap. It's the complete opposite. The reason why I beat this camera up so much in all of my content is because I truly think that it's too expensive. It retails for, like I said, $430, $450 body only, and Canon really stripped everything from this camera. I truly believe that the camera is too expensive, and if you are going to buy this camera, consider buying it used, and the price that for used, it probably should be around $350 to $300. $450 is just too much, because here's the thing. At $450 for the body only, you can spend an extra $100 and buy something like the Canon R100V, which is a monumentally better camera than this R100. For a little bit more, you can buy the R50, which is, in my opinion, for video, not as good as the R50V, because it doesn't have C-Log and doesn't have other video features. But if you're just a photographer with a viewfinder, the R50 body only, I think is just shy of $600, maybe $650. Those two cameras are exponentially better than the R100. Again, I beat it up so much not because it's shitty or because it produces bad images or bad video. It's actually because I believe that the R100 is a little bit too expensive. And also the kit lenses, that 18 to 55 or 18 to 45 and 18 to 210 or 150, those kit lenses, those are god awful. Those lenses are terrible. Do not buy those lenses. And I'll stop right there. I'll get off my soapbox and I'll show you some of this footage right here. Again, the R100 as the cinema rig here is really easy to handle, really easy to maneuver, fully rigged out like this. Yes, did you just triple the price, quadruple the price of the R100 with all of this gear? Yeah, but the footage that comes out of it actually is pretty decent. When you're talking about the video though, one thing that I do need you to keep in mind is that this camera shoots at 4K 24 or 4K 30. I'll add some clarity here in 1 second, but it only shoots in 4K with a crop mode, and the crop mode is pretty egregious. So the highest resolution that I would shoot this camera in for video is 1080/30. It does full HD 60, full HD 30, and full HD 23.9 whatever. Both of those are, yeah, full HD 30, 29.97, and it also does 1080 at 60, no crop. So the highest resolution that I would use for this camera is 1080p, full HD for this. In terms of video, also continuous recording, it does have a 30-minute record limit, another bummer. So it's just filled with shortcuts again. So you have to be okay with only shooting in 1080, 1080/30 or 1080/60. Anything in 4K is gonna have a really aggressive crop, which it's already a crop sensor. So cropping in again to that is a deal breaker for me. If it isn't for you, then this camera is perfectly fine. But again, in order for me to shoot this and have like decent quality footage out of it, I needed to add a $1,000 lens or a $600 lens for it to actually look pretty decent. So without further ado, let me show you some footage around my studio with this camera. All right, so right now you're just, I put this camera on me. I did set the auto eye tracking, and you can see that it does a pretty decent job of following me around. Again, if you're looking at the settings, I'm shooting at 1080, 30 FPS, and the footage looks spectacular. But the lens right here is what I really want to emphasize, is that this is a $1,000 lens. I have it set at f1.8 to get that nice blurry depth of field. So for talking head videos, this camera is going to require a monitor on top because the camera itself doesn't have a flip out screen, so you have no way of being able to see yourself, monitor yourself, to check your audio levels, to make sure that everything is okay. And in videography, being able to see yourself is incredibly important. But again, if you're just thinking about the quality of the video, it does look pretty decent. You know, the footage is clean. There's nothing really wrong with it. The fact that it does shoot in 1080p is a little bit of a bummer, but if you can live with it, it is a sub $500 camera with no flip out screen, no touch screen. It requires literally a $600 to a $1,000 lens for it to actually look pretty good. I don't buy any of the kit lenses because I already know what a kit lens is. The handheld footage, as you can see when I was messing around and taking some footage of my cat, the footage on it looks spectacular, but I do want to emphasize how important it is that you consider how expensive the lens that I currently have. So again, right now, if I move around, the camera does a nice job of being super sticky and sticking to my eye. You can see that it does bounce around from eye to eye. It isn't totally ideal because the autofocus isn't as sticky as a $1,000 camera or something like the R50V is. The R50V, if you're thinking about video, again, the R50V itself costs under $600, $540, $560. I'll put the price in the description down below. That is a spectacular video camera, and it is marginally more expensive than this guy. The R50V does have a kit lens as well. Again, I don't recommend buying any camera with any single kit lens. Now, let me just tool around here, and I want you to pay attention to the autofocus and how it like snaps back onto me. Obviously, I can't see what I'm doing right now, but as I turn around, it should catch my eye once again. The camera doesn't have animal tracking, so it won't be able to see my animal. It won't snap onto it. It still wants to grab onto me. As soon as I cover my face, the box should get bigger, and as soon as I open up my hands, it should snap right back to me. Moving around the area, if I turn this around, you can see that from edge to edge right here, it will lose me until I pop back in right around there. So you guys can kind of see that a little bit. These are all kind of important things that for a sub $500 camera, you're gonna have to live with, truthfully. But again, keep in mind all of the footage. Now that I have your guys' attention, I'm kind of like messing around here. I'm gonna put some stuff out on the table here so that you guys can see some other detailed shots with some more ideal lighting, and if you're thinking about B-roll footage. So this will be the example for the talking head, just so you guys can get an idea of what that looks like. Now, excuse me while I move some stuff around and get some, and we'll move this over here handheld. Again, the camera is recording and rolling the entire time. So let's see what we can find. Battery is good. And I'm gonna be swapping this camera for this guy over here. And I think this is a good spot, good a spot as any. That way you guys can see the environment that I'm recording in. I do have a lot of light. I have plenty of light in this room. Everything looks good. This will be an example of some B-roll footage for you guys to kind of test, and you guys will be able to see what the handheld stuff kind of looks like. Again, this is all handheld footage. And let me switch over to not eye tracking. And here you can see what handheld footage kind of looks like. We are at f1.8, 1/60, and this will be an example of some B-roll footage. Mind you, I'm just moving slowly, doing the ninja walk. And you guys can see some details of the lens. And I'm going to use this B-roll in the video itself. Nothing too crazy. Let's go one hand. Again, keep in mind that the lens that I have on here is the 17 to 40 f1.8 Sigma art lens, a very, very beautiful, beautiful lens. You guys can see the detail. Let's put these down. All handheld. The camera doesn't have IBIS, and this lens doesn't have IS, so all of this is handheld. Can you get decent footage out of it? Yes. Here's some dynamic shot right here. You can see my cat in the shadow with the outside. It's a little bright looking outside. Let's see if we can switch that actually. Let's bring that down. There we go. F4. Now the cat is crazy bright. There we go. Some dynamic range. What else can I shoot? So going from really bright to a lot darker. Put this guy back. So I do think that that is a pretty decent example. Again, I'm just working in my studio here of something that is super quick and easy to kind of demonstrate, and how I would use a little cinema rig like this. Would I take this camera outside? Yeah, I definitely would. It doesn't have a touchscreen, so you do have to learn how to navigate all of the menus via the D-pad, which can be a little cumbersome, especially if you are more familiar with cameras. Now, the question that it needs to be answered is like, is it even worth to really rig out this camera and turn it into something like this cinema rig, which really quadruples the price of the camera just to make it shoot some decent video? I don't think it is. I don't think it is, because again, the R100, the R50V, this camera right here is exponentially better in almost every single way, and it's about $100 more. So what I tell people that have the R100, I'm like, I think it's a waste of money and it's a waste of time, because it's so close in price to a proper camera like the R50V that you might as well just get this if you're thinking about video. And if you're thinking about a proper photo camera, it isn't much more expensive. The R50 isn't much more expensive, so you might want to get that. I have linked both of those down in the description for you guys to check out. And the last question that I'll answer for you is like, is this camera worth it and should you get it? And who's it for? You know, I did watch a video from Ken Rockwell about this Canon R100, and he kept mentioning his mom. He said, this camera is for my mother. And I think Ken Rockwell is spot on. This camera is for the person that is a student, you know, right around 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, somebody that just got started, somebody that receives this camera as a gift. This would be a killer gift for somebody that has never used the camera. It is significantly better than any cell phone. You've seen the footage that I kind of overlaid here for you. So it does produce some really nice footage with the proper lens. So this camera is for somebody who's a student, somebody that's never handled a camera before, and Ken Rockwell's mom. The last thing is that if you do want to learn more about this camera here, the R50V, my most recommended camera of 2025 and 2026, you're going to want to check out this video right here. Adios.